Saturday to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and a great weekend so far. Man, I am super excited to be here today. My name is Don Terrell. I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades. And I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. And today is going to be the latter. We're going to have a fun conversation on the latter today, cartoons and comic strips. So I'm super excited about today's show. You know the drill. Hop into the comments. Say, hey, where you tuning in from? So as I check to make sure that we're live, like we should be on all the platforms. We are here each and every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, the Facebook group, and the website for the show is where you can check us out live. But I do always encourage everybody to get connected into the YouTube community there, youtube.com/Don Terrell. Check out all the past great guests that we've had on the show and all the great content that goes up on the channel. Like I said, you'll be notified. So hit the bell notification, share, get the word out there. As always, Mr. or Miss, looks like no, Mr. Rivera Art. Hey, Forest Hills, Queens. Oh, we got a New Yorker. I'm not, please. Don't hate me for my New York accent. I'm not trying. I'm just being funny. I love cartoons, comics. But we are glad that you're here today from Queens. I'm not sure if you're guessing you know Ray or a personal friend of Ray. But at any rate, if you're not, I'm glad you tuned in. So make sure also that you hop on over to the store. The store is open. I always want to see people and as many people as I can in some Color of Motion swag. Like I said, I'm still working on getting some new designs up of the new logo and other new stuff up on the shop. So stuff that you would get would be vintage, kind of vintage stuff. But it's still have a that stuff's gonna come down. So having something that's vintage is gonna be worth something. So, like I said, go over to colormotion.net/swag and pick you up something nice. My only request is if you do pick up something nice, shoot a picture of yourself and send it on over to me so that I can share it with the community and on the show and give you a shout out. Miss Maggie, appreciate you, as always, supporting the show and tuning in. Greetings from Baton Rouge. I can get that right. Baton Rouge. I may not say it like a true Cajun. I am just a fan. Whether you're a fan or whether you know Ray, like I said, we both appreciate you tuning in and stopping by for sure. Man, we got a lot. What? Like I said, I knew this was going to be a good show. Northwest Arkansas, man. I tell people now, I'm international. I'm worldwide. So I can honestly claim that I have a worldwide show. So thank you for being a part of it. Like I said, what else? I want to make sure I get all the good little housekeeping and stuff. I do want to put out there, like I said, I do want people to support the channel. Like I said, it helps me to continue to do and bring the show on. And who doesn't love a good cup of coffee? I love coffee. So buy me a cup of coffee. .com/Don Terrell. Any little thing helps. So like I said, it helps me to continue to bring great content to you, continue to bring the show to you, and to continue to bring great guests. Well, not guests, great friends to you and sit down and talk with you. So with that, I think that pretty much is, don't want to get away from this. I do want to give a shout out to sponsor of the show. Wow, that came in big. That came in really big. The sponsor of the show, DG Graphics. They do all the graphics overlays, and this one was my faux pas. coming in that way. But they do all the graphics, overlays, and animations. And if you're a business and a brand that's looking to really stand out, create engaging content and clear content, then DG Graphics, you definitely want to check out. Okay. With that, I think we are ready to start this episode. Like I said, this episode, and I really am going to preface this before. No, I'm going to wait till we bring my guest on, so he's present when I say this. So, thank you to the Warrior for just subscribing, and you have just won a gift. So thank you. Like I said, this is I'm glad you did that because it reminded me this being our 5th year doing this show, we are celebrating the whole season. And while I'm saying that, let me get the confetti going. We are celebrating this whole season. So we're doing fun giveaways, contests and things like that. And one of the things that we're doing is if you subscribe to the YouTube channel during the live show, this show, whenever it's live, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get a gift, and we will be notified, like you just saw, when somebody subscribes during the show. So we will be messaging you to get your particulars of where we can send and ship your gift to. So thank you for subscribing. Like I said, this definitely, it helps. It makes me feel good because it definitely helps remind me that the content that I am creating is of value and, to everybody. Okay. With that, I think we're ready to get this show on the road. And like I said, I've been super excited about this. So without further ado, I say, let me stop this confetti. I say, let's get this show on the road. Hey. Yes, we are back, and we are ready to get this, like I said, show started. And like I said, this is such a treat for me in so many ways, and I'm going to explain why when I bring the guests on. But like I said, without further ado, let's bring my next guest on. My next guest, coming from a sort of dysfunctional background, he started drawing at an early age. Being very much the loner, he won his first prize for cartoons at 8. At 12, he was discovered on the streets of New York during an outdoor art project that led to him getting hired as a staff artist at Kids Magazine. He began freelance work regularly at 15 and 16, getting most jobs he applied for, which those were the days when pounding the pavement was normal. He attended a high school of music and art and was fortunate enough to win a full scholarship to the School of Visual Arts, where the training was exquisite. Immediately upon graduation, he had to show up the next day at Disney in Florida, where he was training to be an animator. He drew all day, then had mandatory art class. Then at home, he worked on things like gag cartoons for Ebony magazine. Ebony, you remember Ebony. While at Disney, he landed a contract for his first syndicated strip, Looking Fine, which dealt with black youths in their 20s. Too much fighting with non-blacks led to him just walking away. This strip made him the youngest cartoonist in the nation at the time. He returned to freelancing and studying to hone his skills, and in '88 launched Curtis, which has been running strong ever since. He's often told others that he's lived his entire life on a deadline. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Mr. Ray Billingsley.
Pleasure to be here, Don.
Ray,
hey, hello, everyone.
Oh man, Ray, You do not know how big a tree. And like I said, for all you that don't know, like I said, Ray and I had a show before the show. We sat and talked, and we were going on and on and on about a lot of stuff. So, but I do, like I said, and I made this clear to Ray when we were talking, but I do want to make it clear to everybody else. Ray encapsulates for me my whole life of what I wanted to do and why I started this show. Like I told Ray, my whole thing was I wanted to be a King Features, specifically King Features, King Features syndicated cartoonist because I just loved comic strips and I was a big Peanuts fan and I just wanted to be a comic strip artist. And so that was my whole thing. So that's why another comic strip, but I didn't see characters or creators that look like me. Like I said, you can tell by my age, I grew up in Beetle Bailey, Blondie, Haggard the Horrible, and, which are all friends of Ray's. And we're going to dive into that. But that's what I grew up. But you didn't see any characters or cartoons or comic strips of color. So that's why I created this show, because you did not see it. I did not see that. So that's why having you on, Ray, is such a treat for me. Because had I known and seen creators like you when I was kind of getting started and getting into comics, it would have made a big impression. So again, that's why I do this show, is because I want to expose younger creators of color that there is this world that they can and achieve what they want to do, this dream that they want to do. So thank you, Ray, for coming on. And like I said, I can tell Ray, it's been 5 years in the making. I was going after Ray in year one. So this is a treat to have you on.
It is me too. I'm glad to be here.
And like I said, I really do want to, and I know you are a treasure trove of just experiences and stories. But I do want to go back to the beginning for you, Ray. You're a New Yorker. You can see it in you. It was in, it comes out in what you do. What was it like, in that era that you grew up in New York? Because New York was it as far as art, graffiti, just that Harlem.
Yeah. Also, it was the centerpiece for poverty, and of course tenements, things like that, broken out windows, a lot of crime. But the thing of it was, the people, they were good people. They were hardworking people. So I don't see uh, a lot of the stereotypes that was talked about with Harlem. Harlem was not a cesspool the way a lot of people made it seem
Yeah.
to be. There were a lot of talented people in Harlem, but they just never got the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
You have to remember now, I started out in '69.
Mm.
Well, that's when I was 12 years old. When I was 8 years old, there was absolutely no representation at all, other than maybe Maury Turner. And what happened was, my third grade teacher, Mrs. Nelson, who is also Curtis's teacher, she was, she was the first person to notice any sort of talent in me. And I remember she wrote on my report card to my parents, he has talent. You need to encourage him. And as a child, I have an older brother, older sister. And my older brother was a typical older brother, picking on me, doing things like that. But he was into artwork. But he
Mm.
did portraits and landscapes, things like that. I was trying to emulate him. I mean, we shared the same room. So I was trying to be like him. He got a little attention, and I wanted some of it. But people, they were basically laughing at what I did. So I started drawing cartoons more. And Mrs. Nelson, she actually got me to join in I think it was a district wide contest, drawing contest, and I won. And I mean, I was 8 years old. I remember I won a plaque and a little book, and I,
That's
I
big
was on
then.
my way. You know?
You felt like you won the Oscar in the Ruby list.
Oh yeah, I held it up with great pride. I suppose it's still around here in the studio somewhere.
Yeah,
There's more than 50 years of work all around the studio.
I can imagine.
Oh
But
man,
but, but
you
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
here, look at it.
But you bring
Yeah,
up a great point of having somebody that is an advocate that really sees the potential of what you can do and encourages it. You
yeah,
know, and I'll say this, like, and we talked a little bit about it, before the show. Like I said, my mother saw it, but and she encouraged it. But I had a counselor who really encouraged, really saw, and she went out of her way to find when it was time for me to pick schools and pick what you want to do. She
right.
knew that I was good at art and that was what I wanted to do. So every time I went to see her, she had, Don, bam, I got a list of schools that has this scholarship, this scholarship, this
Yeah,
scholarship, this scholarship. You need to sit down and apply for these things for art school, because you got a talent, get something. So she was a real advocate for my talent. She didn't look like me. She was white, of course,
right, right.
obviously. But I mean, it's good to have somebody. One, obviously, I think it's good to have anybody that's really encouraging you. You know.
Now
Yeah.
let me jump forward from 8 years old. When I was going to music and art, first of all, you had to audition to get into the school. You had to have a portfolio. And I was one of the few people that ever brought cartoons because it was unheard of. Music and art did not have cartoonists at that time. But luckily, I was able to get in. I think because I was already being published. And, I already had a name by the time I was ready to go to high school. And two of my favorite people there was Mr. Wexler, my guidance counselor, and Mr. Richard Klein, who was the principal. And Mr. Klein, actually, he was the first one who gave me this really swanky portfolio to take my stuff around. And I had a little cheap, crappy one because the family was poor, so I just put it in a brown envelope and took it around with me. But he gave me that push, and Mr. Wexler, uh, he put out a weekly column and he had me do a strip each week. So I had a strip in high school, going. And mind you, I only had like 15 minutes to draw it. I almost had to do it in between classes. But it was good to have people, on your side. Not that they actually saw me making a living out of it, but they saw it as potential.
Yeah.
And, that alone meant a whole lot. Mrs. Nelson, I had to put her in the strip because it was like paying homage to her.
Yeah.
And the way I portray her in the strip was just the way she was. She was a big opposing woman, almost intimidating, to a third grader. And whenever she looked at you, she always moved her glasses. So I do that in the strip every time. She's always looking at you, looking at the glasses. And, we were scared of her. But she did that one thing for me, and I loved her ever since.
Yeah.
You know,
No.
of course, she wasn't around to actually see
See
the
your
success
success.
of her.
Oh
Yeah, I
wow.
mean, I was in third grade.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
by that time, if she was still alive, she was probably in a home or something like that.
Yeah.
You
But those kind
that,
of people, even though they don't live to see it, they just know that you're going to be successful.
yeah,
Because they see the talent that's within you to do it. So, like I said, those kind of people are priceless in your life. And for a creative, you almost have to have those kind of people because it's
yeah,
easy to
right,
slide in. And, you alluded to it earlier, especially coming from a neighborhood. My neighborhood wasn't quite like gangs and violence and things like that. But I know how easy it is to slide into things that you shouldn't be getting it off into. So it's good to have people that kind of keep you on course off of stuff.
let me tell you, in my neighborhood, everybody went to a place called St. Nicholas Park, and we called it St. Nick, and that's where my crew was. But at one point I was living in this apartment on my own, and my bedroom was like towards the front of the place, and I could see over the avenue. And I actually heard some guys planning to rob my apartment. I actually heard them, and they were saying things like, "Well, when does he go? When does he leave for work?"
Wow.
And they said, "I don't know, man. He never seems to leave." I was doing my artwork, so I wasn't doing a 9 to 5. They didn't get a chance to get in there. Don't you know? I hightailed it out of there. I
Wow.
got out
Wow.
of that neighborhood, but it was the kind of neighborhood that if someone said they were going to kill you, you
Wow.
better pay attention because
Wow.
they might be serious.
Wow.
You know, it wasn't an actual place known for artwork where I grew up. Now, some of the guys knew that I was doing art, but I didn't tell most people because, like I said, I was being published, and I knew that a lot of the people wouldn't actually understand it.
Yeah.
So I stayed quiet, and I just wanted to be, normal. I just
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be a regular person. So I kept a lot of that to myself, and they didn't actually start finding out until they started seeing articles with me in it, and then they would get on me
Say,
then because I
wait,
didn't tell them.
hey, this is Ray. What's Ray
Yeah,
doing? And we're going to talk, and like I said, we talked a little bit about the trappings of success and, fame and kind of success and stuff like that. And you're friends with some of the biggest ones out there that in the industry that, and we again, we're talking about this before, just that kind of slippery slope of getting kind of caught up in the trappings of success type of
see,
thing and not being able to kind of live that and enjoy,
right,
you
right.
know.
There was a lot I had to miss, especially as a kid. From the time I was 12, I was working. So, I mean, there was a lot of things I couldn't do. I couldn't play ball as hard as everybody else could because
Yeah.
I couldn't risk hurting my hand. I
Yeah.
always had a deadline to meet. So I couldn't hang out all hours because I had work to do.
Yeah.
And it was things like that sort of separated me from other people. So I lived near the park, near St. Nicholas Park. So I mean, I could hear the guys playing ball or kids playing and all that. And I was upstairs working on pages.
Yeah.
So I sort of missed out on a lot of stuff. But the thing with the older cartoonists that I really enjoyed, I was sort of an oddity when I came up. It never dawned on me these guys were like 20, 30 years older than me. And they welcomed me, and they took me under their wing. They taught me all sorts of things. And, I think I was too young and too foolish to really say, wow, look who I'm friends with.
Yeah.
But they taught me a lot of stuff. And like I say, a few of them, they were like adopted parents because my father and I didn't have like the greatest relationship. So I used to like go to Schultz and ask him, relationship questions and things like that. And they really took me under their wing. They used to call me kid for the longest time. They
Um,
just kid.
well, it's interesting that you asked this. And I want to ask you, not to say that you knew him or were like deep friends with, but you might could answer. You might could kind of give your perspective. I found this. There's a documentary. I was telling you that there's a documentary on Charles, one of many, but this was one I happened to watch. I think it was on. I think it's on Tubi, uh, and I was watching it. But I got the impression that from talking with the friends that they talked to, that he was that kind of almost Charlie Brown, where he just couldn't find this kind of happy space and enjoy, kind of. I guess
Well,
this
let me
is
tell you, Schultz was a lot different than people really thought he was. They write him as being meek and mild.
yeah. Now that they did say that he's not.
He was not. He was
Yeah,
not.
that they did say he's not like that.
Some of the jokes he used to tell me, I would turn and say, "Wait, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be saying this stuff. You know, you're drawing Snoopy, man. You're not even supposed to know this kind of stuff. And we played football, and mind you, he could throw a bullet. He threw it square into my chest, man. And I mean, I said, okay. He could play baseball. He used to ice skate, and I mean, he was very good at it. So he was not. By the time I knew him, he was not a loser type.
Yeah.
Of course, he was a very deep thinker, and he always thought about his audience first. And you know, that's where his seriousness came in.
Yeah.
But I knew him. He was just a wonderful soul to know.
Oh man, like I said, I just soaked up everything I could find, you know, as much as I could find on here. But
Yep.
did well at that time, you know, where was Curtis at? You know, was
Let's see. Wow. From about the time Curtis started, I started meeting people.
mm,
Um, I actually met a few people while I was doing Looking Fine, and that was because I was the young boy.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I was the young boy. So you know, people just want to talk to me and find out where my head is at, and they found out, you know, I was a lot more mature than they really thought I was. You know,
yeah,
I was very grown. I had to grow up very quickly from being immersed in the cartooning world. Uh, Back then, it was not a world for the meek. Sometimes young people would say, "Wow, you know, I wish, you know, I had grown up like you." And I said, "You know, you really better think about what you're saying because it was not easy. It was not easy. The competition was fierce. You did have to pound the pavement. I was at one point where I was paid for a job. I was looking for the next job, and then I had another job set up after that.
yeah.
So I mean, I was going to magazines, newspapers, animation studios looking for work while I was doing work, while I was waiting to get paid for work. So I mean,
It's
uh,
a thing.
that
It's a
that
thing.
it, that sort of thing kept me from really having uh, like the normal life. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I still enjoyed a lot of things, but there was a lot of things I just I couldn't be involved with.
Well, I mean, like I tell people, you know, life is a sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice something to get something. So
Right,
if you want something, you're going to have to sacrifice something.
right,
So, and depending on the level of what you want, obviously, if you want to be Michael Jordan, you're going to sacrifice time on the court, getting the
a
shots
lot.
in, and being the best, being Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. So that's what I mean. You sacrifice that kind of normal thing because, again, you're trying to be above normal, beyond normal, what normal people are doing, type of thing. Um, I want to ask you, uh, you know, on speaking on that, your thoughts on this time that we live in now. You know, you were saying back then it was about pounding the pavement, you know, just carrying your portfolio. I look at I have a portfolio. Trust me, like I said, I've been in school. I have one of those portfolio cases that, you know, you take her out to the interview. Now, I
Right.
haven't pulled that thing out of my closet in years. Yeah, I think since I graduated. So this time that we live in now, I want to dive into you about because again, not just the time of okay, now you got channels now, and there's so many things I want to dive into. You know, talking with you about. I'm trying not to jump around from topic to topic, um, but you know, controlling your own idea and controlling your own IP now. This thing of you know and from the challenges that you've kind of experienced, you walked away from your first comic strip because of just, you know, non-black issues and finding and things like that. I'm sure you thought about as, you know, you were moving through your journey and as Curtis started to climb, just this thing of being able to control the narrative of what you want Curtis to be.
Right.
And we talked about this.
I can tell you this: by the time Curtis came along, I was fortunate enough that King Features gave me leeway. They let me do what I knew was correct. Sometimes I got them a little excited because I might be touching on something that I shouldn't be. But I used to explain it as this: Curtis is not Charlie Brown. Curtis is a city strip. It's not Dondi. Sometimes not all my ideas were that sweet. Sometimes I touched on things that they may not think I'm supposed to. But I said it's all in the narrative that I'm trying to push. Curtis is a city boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just doesn't always go the same way. He's not like a loser.
Yeah, no, I get that. He's a totally different character. But do you think that was the expectation? They were trying to fit it in with all the other characters that they within.
I did have to tell them this before. It was like a warning. I said, look, you're not going to turn this into a Black High and Lois. My characters are not High and Lois and never will be. His father, Greg, is always going to worry about bills.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what most Black guys do, especially if they're the family, they worry about bills.
Yeah.
And the mother is semi-crazy because that's how a lot of Black mothers were. They were, and it wasn't a thing.
The disclaimer, not all comments are attributed to the show.
So,
That's all Black mothers.
Just about all the little strips did a thing where, say, like Dennis the Menace wanted to steal cookies, and they would always say no. It was like, why buy the cookies if you don't want the kids to get in it? And instead, I have Curtis eating his way through the refrigerator. I mean, there's nothing that'll stop her. He'll bring home a whole pizza pie and eat it for himself.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go a whole different route. And mind you, sometimes when you want to go a different route, it's harder to be accepted.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of wait for the audience to catch up with you.
Yeah.
Once they catch up with you, then it's freewheeling. You can do just about anything. Now, of course, I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot and do something really stupid. I did one where I had shocked people where Curtis and Barry had found a VHS tape tucked into the back of the parents' closet.
Yeah.
And while the parents weren't there, they put it in the player and they were looking at it. And I had them saying, wow, look at mom and dad go. Look at this.
What kid has
it? And of course, they wanted to put the reins on it. They said, Ray, we can't have them having a sex tape. I said, what are you talking sex tape? It's not a sex tape. The whole thing was the parents had met on Soul Train. And you saw them dancing down the Soul Train line. That's what I'm going for. I said, you don't think I'm really going to do that, do you? So every now and then, I used to love to throw a curveball and catch.
Oh, man.
Wow.
But did it worry you about stuff that you really wanted to say, but that you knew or had a feeling that you would probably get some pushback from them, or them just flat out say, no, we don't want you saying that?
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes that would happen. When I started doing the church lady hats, I thought there would be big pushback, because the ladies don't like to be talked about with their big giant hats and things like that. And I mean, I only do it like maybe twice a year to keep it special.
Yeah.
But the people, to my surprise, they did not push back. They actually loved it.
Your audience, your fans.
Right. The audience loved it.
Yeah.
And every now and then, now I have to tell you, I'm actually a student of political science. So, I mean, I have a lot of ideas on politics and like the current administration and things like that. And
sure.
I don't bring it up because I'm pretty sure, they'll try to burn me out of my house if I really spoke about some of the things I really wanted to. So I temper it it's the way I talk about it,
Yeah.
and it's which character I use to talk about it.
Yeah.
If I have Barry talk about it, he can get away with it because he's 8 years old,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
seems more like innocence.
Yeah.
If I have their father Greg say something about it, then it's more of a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm no fool.
Yeah.
I
Now I
know
can
how to play the game.
appreciate, and those are the type of creators that you can appreciate. They can still get their point of view
Right.
across, but in a way that's palatable for the everyday person to get. Trust me, that's why I love or am fascinated when I watch anything kind of Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek and stuff, and
Oh yeah.
just the
Oh
nuances
yeah.
of the stories behind and how what he did to just get it across the censors and stuff. So those you appreciate those ones that can, like I said, can craft their message
Now,
and
sometimes somebody will write to me and they'll say, "Ooh, man, I know what you were saying. I know what you was getting after."
we
I'm like,
we can get it.
I'm in a sense saying, "What are you talking about? I didn't mean anything." But of course, yeah, there was something. There was a message that I was putting in there, but sometimes only the most diehard fans get it.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, I have a good time with it.
yeah,
It's fun to me,
yeah.
especially when I get something over, and I send this stuff to the syndicate, and I don't hear from them, and I'll say, "Oh, I got over. I got over. It's going to be printed,"
Oh
So
man, I
that
want to
that
talk.
cracks me up.
Yeah, and it's always fun trying to get something past the powers that be, for sure, and slide things by. Uh, I want to talk about kind of the deadline
Oh,
and the page, the blank page that and talk to, like I said, that for being in a artist, it's a kind of cathartic thing, but it can be a kind of, like you were saying, a lonely thing, and that was the thing
oh
I
yeah.
kind of picked up from Charles's, Charles Schultz's documentary. It's a lonely process when you sit down at a board and pour out your ideas and stories into a character.
You got to remember now, I've been doing this for a long time. So those blank pages, thank thank God, don't stay blank for long. I many times I could be doing something around the house. I could be just listening to music,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden an entire script will come out. It could be fully written.
yeah,
And a funny thing, the way I work, I write my gags out. I write out storylines, and I don't really do sketches. The sketches up here.
yeah,
The way I want it to look is all in my mind. So being in the business so long, I'm used to being by myself more, and I enjoy my own company. So it's not a problem. I'm by myself, but you know what? I'm not lonely. I'm not a
yeah.
lonely person. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely.
Lonely. Yeah,
And like I said, I love music. So most of the time I'm on my headphones and I'm just jamming away, man. I'm in a whole different world. Music that I grew up with and all that, it just takes me.
yeah,
And before I know it, I'm looking out the window and the sun's going down. And I have to go and remember to eat.
yeah.
You
It's
see, I'm not a big guy. So,
now you remind me of my cousin there, tall and slender.
yeah, a lot of times, you almost forget to eat. You get so wrapped up into what you're doing,
Yeah,
and the ideas are really chugging along. Oh man, it
yeah,
is a great feeling.
yeah. It's like
The
I said,
deadline
only
is mind numbing. Let me
yeah,
tell you.
yeah,
And the worst thing about syndication, uh, no matter what happens in your life, you got to put out.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, my parents passed, and I still had to put out work. You don't have a general time to grieve unless you get ahead of the deadline,
yeah.
and that's hard to do because unless you sit in a vault with food coming to you,
Mm.
things happen, and you have to take care of some of these things. And sometimes there's nights where I have to stay up and work just to get this deadline,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a grind.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
magazine work was once a month, and freelance work was maybe once a week, things like that. But doing it daily and doing it daily for so long, it is not for the squeamish. I've told people before, sometimes it's not that hard getting syndicated. It's hard staying syndicated.
Yeah,
Strips can come in and they might nosedive in like a couple of years, 5 years at the most,
yeah,
because people don't realize the grind that it
yeah,
is. But
yeah.
see, I was already used to the grind.
Right. Yeah.
I was used to
Well,
hard work.
that's with anything. Consistency. Are you consistent with doing the work? And I want to kind of touch on. Well, before I do, let me throw in some comments. Man, we're getting some great engagement here, man. I love you guys because you guys are, like I said, shows like this I live for. I
Okay.
call the warrior. Appreciate you for sure.
Yes,
Appreciate
yes.
Bavair, Art, yay, I appreciate you there. Uh, Willie Carwell. Willie Carwell, creator of the comic strip, the 90s, tuning in from Texas. Awesome, Willie. I appreciate you tuning in. Mr. Tommy, we appreciate you tuning in there. DeWine, my man, I appreciate you. I knew you would love this episode because, like I said, you love cartoons, comics, and things. So I knew this was going to be an episode that you would enjoy as well as me, for sure. Mr. Maurice, a good man, always an inspiration.
Oh,
Appreciate.
cool
And
dude.
like I was telling you, which is like I said, why this whole thing is kind of divine, you coming on at this time. Because like I said, this is our fifth, we're celebrating our 5th year of doing the show. This is the 2nd month, Black History Month. And you coming on, and you are a big part of a legacy within cartooning. You do have, and I want you to speak about this, your place in comics and cartoons, and with all the other ones. You obviously, we love the hat jokes. We should say, obviously, like I said, you're friends with people that are at varying successes and exposure to their cartoons. Yours may not, it wasn't on the level of Peanuts and as far as worldwide and stuff like that. But like I said, you fit this space. You're in this
You have to
space.
remember, there's a lot of states out there still that exist that aren't really welcoming to anything black.
Yeah.
It's a bad state of affairs. Here we are, 2025, and really, not that much has changed. You get people that'll tell you no for like the most asinine reason.
Yeah.
You can tell they're making it up. They just don't want to say they're racist.
Yeah. They don't want to come out and admit to
They,
why
they
they
just
don't
don't
want
want to
to.
say it. Yeah, but I've heard so many creative ways to say no. You wouldn't imagine. All I do is shake my head because I'm no fool. I
Yeah.
know it when I see it. You know,
Yeah.
I I didn't grow up in a bubble. So I know
Well,
exactly what's going on.
I think that's what they think. We grow up in a bubble and don't recognize it.
A lot of cartoonists have even said it to me that had Curtis been a white character, he would have gone a lot farther.
Oh yeah, I'm
And
pretty sure.
Maury Turner, when I first met him, he had told me. I think Looking Fine was about halfway through,
Mm-hmm.
and he had told me if I really wanted to sell and stay out of trouble, he said to draw either white kids or animals.
Wow.
And mind you, that came from Maury Turner.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, no, I can't do that. I gotta represent, man. I gotta really do
Bro.
it. I got a story for you. There was a man named Samuel Joyner that most people probably don't even remember. Uh, um, he was around during an early part
Mm-hmm.
of black cartooning. Um, he had to actually get a white friend of his to take his cartoon into magazines and newspapers for them to sell. because they wouldn't buy it if they knew it came from a black person.
Yeah. Well,
So I mean the struggle has been very hard, and I have to also bring in my fellow cartoonists, Rob Armstrong and Stephen Bentley and Barbara Brandon Croft. We still went through a lot, you know, coming up when we did. There was a lot of pushback to all the stuff we were doing, and you know, we still push forward.
yeah.
It's not until these recent years, especially with the internet, that things have really started to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to touch on that. And I'm glad you segued into that because that was kind of my next point of this time now
Yeah.
as a creator. And actually, a cartoonist, if he didn't really want to, he wouldn't have, he'd do all this stuff, put a web series,
Right.
online and build even a bigger following. So this time that we live in, I want to hear what your thoughts of how you think about, because you have gone through this, you've seen the evolution of where you started and where we're at now. And
Right.
I tell people that myself. I'm fortunate enough, I started in graphic design production,
Mhm.
paste up boards, carrying things to the camera department and having things shot. And now you're on computers. What do you think about this time now as a content creator, being able to monetize your own idea, go straight to your audience and build that way, as opposed to feeling like you have to go to or go through King Feature? I'm sure there's a lot of benefits,
Well,
obviously.
from what I hear from the content creators, the hardest part for them is to make a living wage. I mean, you could put out stuff for, you know, a million people, but unless a million people give you money, you know, you're still working at, you know, models. You get a chance to, well, more people get a chance to say their voice. They get a chance to represent what they want to do. A lot of times they have a hard time with staying power, like I stated before, and just making money from it. One thing the digital age really kind of screwed up was that when you had a syndicated strip, say like each newspaper paid you say $30 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So you multiply that by four weeks, then you multiply that by 52 weeks in a year. And if you have like 1,000 papers, you multiply that again,
Yeah.
okay? And you make a lot of money. With the digital age, these guys can get away with paying you $1 a week.
Yeah.
So you could have all these different platforms, but you're not pulling in $900, you know, in 6 months. So that makes a lot. Of course, they don't want to spend money. They want the content, but they don't want to spend money. And that's been the double-edged sword of digital life. You get a chance to really put your stuff out there, and nobody can tell you what to do, and you know, blah blah blah, things like that. But of course, the monetary gain is not there. And because there's such an onslaught of all these different varying types of artwork, they don't have to pay anyone. You know, if the audience is all on the computer, they can just let you post your stuff, and you're basically just posting it for free. You know, you're not making anything from it. So I see a lot of things with Kickstarter pages and things like that, and they don't always find an audience. One, because people don't know them, and two, because you know times are hard, and you know people don't have 50, $100 to spend on your cause when they have their own cause. You know,
True.
everyone is selling,
True.
so you know that's a drawback to it. Magazines folding and newspapers going under, all those were opportunities for, say, like the younger set. These were all opportunities that they could have gone for, but you know, since the advent of the computer, they can't go for it. It's not there anymore. So they're not making the money.
Well, I mean, and I guess I look at it from a kind of different perspective in the sense that most creators I've talked to, most creators I've seen, they're not getting their revenue from one. They've got multiple revenue streams of what they're doing. They got
Right.
merchandise, they've got courses, they've got
But
sponsorships, memberships, and I get.
remember, remember, even then, you don't get but so much.
Well,
You know,
but
I
you're
knew of people who put out these books. They spent their money on the books and T-shirts and things like that. And then they would come to me and say, "Ray, how come I'm not selling?" And I said, "Because everyone is selling. Everyone is selling like you do, and not everybody knows you." One of the things that's imperative of this industry is that you cannot let your ego get too far ahead of you.
yeah,
You cannot think that your work is just so important that everybody wants it. You put something out for 6 months, a year, or something like that, and you think that the heavens are opening up when it's not. It's longevity that really pays off
oh
in the
yeah,
business. That's why I said earlier, the hard part is not getting seen or noticed. It's the ability to stay seen and
yeah.
noticed, because the audience gets bored easily. So you're always having to improve your craft, improve what you're doing, and that's the hard part, because a lot of things that you think may be original, it's been done.
But what they
It's
say, there is no original. There is no original idea, is what they're
exactly.
saying. Yeah,
Schultz told me long ago. He said, find something that's original to your strip and go with it. So that's when I did the church lady hats. And let's see, I had a character once called Gunk, who
yeah.
was
I
from
remember Gunk.
Dallas. Now, that was my original idea. The only thing with Gunk was he was starting to take over the strip. He was too easy to write for. So any absurd thing I was thinking of, Gunk was there, and he was
Yeah,
taking up 3 weeks of work. And I said, "This, I got to pull back on this character." I could have given him his own strip. So and Will Eisner, who did the Spirit, the graphic novel. He's actually the father of the graphic novels. He was an instructor of mine, and he challenged me to do more than I thought I could. So in his way, he was responsible for my doing Super Captain Cool Man. That was my superhero. And I mean, it started as a joke. Some friends of mine and I, we were at a restaurant, and the waiter, they all knew me and stuff there. And he asked me if I could draw a superhero. I said, sure. And I drew it down on a napkin. It was a guy with a fade, and I gave it to him. And I said, wow, let me see what would happen if I drew this guy. I drew the character down. I got like 300 responses. And I said, oh, damn, that means I got to do another one. And I got to
but
do
you
another
saw
one.
people wanted it. I mean,
Exactly.
you saw that people wanted that.
It was just done as a joke. And when I made the character Dr. Horsehead, once again, the readership went up. You know, um, all of a sudden, here I have a villain that has a horse's head. That it wasn't done.
Yeah.
And he was
Well,
evil as could be.
well, let me ask you. So, how does King Features? Because obviously, one, very few people read newspapers. They like newspapers now. And comic strips aren't. They was you were constantly fighting the shrinking page
Right,
as a
right.
cartoonist and comic strip. So, outside of newspapers, how is King Features getting Curtis out there? You
Well,
know,
they've got their website that's Comics Kingdom,
yeah,
and
which we will throw on there.
I noticed there's some other websites that other also run it. Something called Arcadia Max or something like that.
Mm,
Um, let me put it this way: when I put the strip out there, I divorced myself from it. Uh, I rarely look at stuff that I've drawn because I'm so critical of myself. It's like I could see where I could improve it.
Yeah.
So I rarely read my stuff after I do it. But some good people out there, sometimes they post it, and I get a chance to see it, and that's more exposure. But other than King Features, I just let the people come to me.
Yeah.
What I do is try to put out some good damn stories, some good gags, and I try to inspire people all the time. And in that way, I hope they keep coming back to me.
Yeah.
Uh, I never wanted to do a strip where you would know what they would do day by day by day. You got certain strips that you look at it and you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Some strips, it's almost like what we used to call a Xerox machine strip. You have three panels and the character is the same in each one.
Yeah.
It's just the dialogue is different. I never wanted to do that. I wanted to put in real art and something to catch the people's eye. So with Curtis, I wanted to either capture the audience by what is being said or by the way it's being drawn.
Yeah.
Either way, it captures you on an intellectual level or it captures you in a visual level. I think everybody that reads Curtis, I think they're intelligent
Yeah.
because I don't talk down to my fans, my family. I don't talk down to them because they deserve better.
Yeah.
I don't do the silly, stupid gags because they deserve better. And I put an extra effort because I'm thinking more of the readers. And now my mission is really um, to help bring up other people.
Yeah.
If they have questions for me and things like that, I'm not the type of person. I will not shun you. I answer. Uh, I get so much mail. It's like
I can
overwhelming.
imagine.
But I try to answer
Yeah.
everything personally.
Yeah.
And I mean I get snail mail. I get the emails. I mean they keep coming to me ever since this show was advertised. I must have like 100 new people who just want to be Facebook friends, and I'm like, wow. Now I can imagine after this show, it's going to keep on going. Let me tell you,
Oh, well,
my
take that
phone,
kind of side compliment, testament to
phone,
the show.
my phone is nearby,
Yeah.
and I keep seeing it light up. So each one of those is some sort of request. It's been going
Oh,
on since
man.
we've been talking. And
Um,
oh, here's something. I didn't really want to bring this up, but I'll say this. On Facebook, on February 8th,
mm,
I saw my picture, and I said, "Well, what's this about?" And they said that February 8th for Black History Month was now going to be Ray Billingsley Day, and I'm
awesome.
like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You know, I, I was overwhelmed, because I don't do this for any accolades or anything. I just do it because I like it,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that people like it. That's
Yeah.
that's all I'm concerned with. I
Well, I mean,
just
you got to know your place. Like I said, you got to know your place in history in this industry because, like I said, there are like I said, while there are a lot of creators of color, there are, like I said, very few that have risen to success and that are well known. And I do want to talk to you about, um,
well, see, I'm lucky. I've always considered myself, I'm blessed. I did a lot of sacrifice, and I just happened to have become popular because of it. But I'm very lucky. I kiss God every day because it didn't have to be this way.
yeah.
I could have been out and I don't know, while I was younger, got hooked on drugs or something like that, and
Well, it could have
something.
gone off in a bunch of different directions, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
I'm curious what you learned from that experience from your first comic strip. And just like I said, then you said there was a lot of fighting with non-blacks over the comic strip and stuff like that. What was it that you pulled from that experience that you learned and took into Curtis?
Well, I learned that through a child, you could say the same things that a 21-year-old could say, but it's viewed differently. See, with Looking Fine, everyone was in their 20s. So they were talking about unemployment and drugs and politics. And of course, it was seen more like my effort to emulate Doonesbury. Doonesbury was talking about all this stuff. So I figured, why shouldn't I?
Yeah,
I'm bringing it from a black perspective.
yeah.
Wrong. That's where I messed up because a lot of editors were scared of the black element already. They're still nervous of the black,
Still are.
you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Boondocks got over from what it was saying, but mind you, it was a whole different audience. Uh, it
Well, do
was
you
funny.
think audiences are changing? But and to that, do you
They
think
are.
audiences are changing now? Because, like you
Yes,
said,
they are.
they are tired of this sanitized kind of
Right.
things, stories, things, characters.
What I think is a lot of strips made the mistake of talking down to people. That was the problem. And people are just so much smarter now. Within their hands, holding the phone and everything, it's just so much information that they take in. And then you do a gag about a little girl and a lollipop. I mean, come on, you know that that's that's insulting almost. So if you notice, a lot of the things that are especially on the web, they're of more mature.
Yeah, There's adult humor. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
they're tackling things that
yeah,
and see, I tell the syndicate that so many times. I say we really need to change with the times because and they'll say, oh, we don't want to offend the old readers, and I say, well, think about it this way: the old readers, they'll be loyal to you. What you want are the new readers. You want the new audience. So what you need to do is change. But of course, that doesn't really
well, I
go.
mean, it's hard, but regardless, you're
I
gonna
mean, I
change
do my
anyway.
thing. I do my thing.
Yeah,
So I mean, I'll change. I change stuff. At one point, Curtis and Barry, Curtis would get a phone call from like a girl, and Barry would be listening in. Of course, it doesn't work anymore because we have cell phones. So of course, there were things that came along, themes that I liked that I had to abandon because they just didn't work anymore.
yeah, didn't work anymore. Yeah,
Society had changed. Yeah, and see, a lot of cartoonists, they're stuck in the 70s and the 80s, things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just need to they need to expand their horizons. But I understand it. A lot of times people don't want the extra trouble. See, I get into trouble sometimes, and I have to address it, and sometimes I don't really feel like doing it, but that's part of my journey. Other
Well,
people they just don't want to do that sort of thing. But
yeah. Well, I mean, we're in this, especially here in this country. We like to play it safe.
yeah,
People are, they're fine with safe, and something that you don't know. Obviously, you fear the things that you don't know, and if you don't know a lot of stuff or don't know
right.
about a lot of stuff, you're going to be skeptical on doing that, or taking the chance to do that. I'm I want to ask you because again, you were friends with Charles, and you saw like just the Peanuts machine. Is that
Yeah.
something that you thought about, um, where Curtis would have been had something like that been behind Curtis, and it was just you were just worldwide. They had everything, you know,
Well, you know
specials and
what?
everything.
I didn't want it to go everywhere, but there were certain things that I had expected. And the thing about the animation, some of my close colleagues know that I have wanted animation for like 30 years.
Yeah,
Only to be different. I have a whole different type of music setup. drawing style that I was thinking of. I had this all fleshed out, and I thought they would be more receptive to it. I thought they'd be more open because it was something different. It wasn't Marmaduke, it wasn't Garfield.
Yeah.
It was something that I thought more people could actually relate to. Because you know what? More people live in cities and things like that than they do out in little houses with white picket fences.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet,
Yeah.
yet they still want to go for the white picket fence
Because it's
experience.
safe. It's
And
safe
yeah,
and secure.
exactly, exactly.
Um,
But see, I'm into it for the art,
yeah.
and I believe art should take chances. And I tell that with any people that come to me with questions and things like that. I say, don't be afraid to take a chance.
Yeah.
Do what you might feel because it's changing. So be part of that change.
Well, let me ask you now. Is that something that's in the future of Curtis? You
I'm
know,
still hoping. Now, at King, they have told me before that they have been looking. And see, I take everything with a grain of salt because they're not telling me exactly who they're going to. And see, I keep putting it out there. I say, look, we can go to Netflix, we can go to the Cartoon Channel, we could do this and that. And see, nothing comes of it.
yeah.
So it makes me wonder, you know, just what's going on. I see a lot of cartoons coming out that are one badly animated, you know, poor poor plot concepts, and they may last a season or
Yeah.
maybe like 6 shows and then they're gone. And you can't keep telling me that, for some reason mine can't take a chance.
Yeah, that you don't have money for something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. If you can do that, then
Yeah,
why not take a chance?
yeah.
But see,
It's the
it
same
goes
with
back to the
film.
black thing again.
Yeah, it's
You
the
know,
same with film. You know, there's black filmmakers that I'm like, man, you're spending hundreds and millions of dollars on,
exactly.
Transformer 10, and
Right,
I can't get this to do.
right.
So, I mean, and that brings me back to my point of having the control to over your IP to do, like I said, and not having to worry about getting permission or whether somebody else thinks that it's a viable thing to do. Now, granted, yeah, if you're gonna do it, and I say this all the time, I love this time because you're not capped.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes a lot of work and it's going to
right,
require a lot of sacrifice of work on your part, but you're not capped by what some studio or what some distributor or somebody else is going to say something or put a restraint or restriction on what you feel
right.
that you can do. That's what I mean as far as, yeah, this time that we live in is, I feel, a great time for creators because it levels this playing field of, yeah, I have to put in the work to make
Yeah.
Curtis this worldwide thing, but I'm not capped by, I can find me an animator and put something together if I seriously want to make an animated, to get Curtis out there animated. If I
I
really
see.
wanted to. A lot of work on my
I
part.
would love that. I would love to do that. All I need is one. If
Yeah.
I could just get one animated thing, because you know what, this is the thing. Also, I would like to give a lot of artists work.
Yeah.
Background artists, animators, writers. I'd like to give everyone work. Um, if I had the money, had I done a Calvin and Hobbes and all that, I would have had at least a special and at least started off that way. And see, I wouldn't have gone the whole marketing thing.
Yeah.
I don't want all
I
the
saw that
t-shirts.
as an extreme to both ends. When I watch Bill Waterston and Charles Schultz, they're like extremes on both ends.
Right.
One, Bill, while I respect it and I love Calvin and Hobbes, I will have to say that was probably the, outside of the Far Side,
Hmm.
one of the only comic strips that made me kind of laugh out loud when I read it. I
Yeah.
could read some and it's funny and I can
Yeah.
find the humor in it, but there are very few that just make me laugh out loud. And the
Right.
Far Side and Calvin and Hobbes was one of those. Um, And we talked
See,
about
most
this.
times, if something made you laugh, it's because it was semi naughty.
It resonated. It was
It
something
was
that resonated
bordering.
with you.
It
You
was
know,
bordering something you shouldn't say.
yeah,
Okay.
true. Or
No,
something that resonated with you, or that you could just you got. You know, you could just. I get that. I get what he said there.
I did a strip one time. It was a Sunday strip. I was on the subway in New York, and I was standing up by the door, and I saw this guy reading the comics. He was looking at Curtis, and it was a strip I did about. Curtis said he wrote a letter to the president, and he said, "What do you think he did with it?" And Barry said, "Well, it depends on whether he read it in his kitchen or the bathroom." And I heard the guy just go, "Pop!" He started cracking up. And see, it was one of those naughty jokes that, I really shouldn't have said. But,
Oh man.
he got exactly what I meant.
Oh man, it's too funny. But like I said, and I want to speak on that as far as your thoughts on just like I said, kind of both the extremes. Because while I and we talked about this before the show about Calvin and Hobbes and Bill and just the millions that he walked away from because he did not want merchandising. He solely stuck with the books and the strip. He was, from what I saw from the things, he was mildly open to the books, but he was more focused on the strip. That
He
was his
wasn't
thing.
even that crazy about the books.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you would, and I thought to myself, and somebody was saying this on the documentary. He said, "Well, I kind of get, he wants to live in the purity of what the comic strip is about, but what harm would it have done to have a stuffed Hobbs doll, and I don't know if he thought. I mean, I'm not kind of trying to get into it, but again, it's that slippery slope of as things get successful, it gets out of your control.
That's it.
You know?
That's the reason why he didn't want to do it, because who knows, the product might have gotten worse and worse. In the push for them just to make money, things come out quickly.
Yeah.
And see, Schultz was very smart because he had a smart wife, Jeannie. She was very smart, and they kept a good eye on the quality of things coming out. And the people that were involved, they were they had the quality utmost in mind. A lot of times you don't get that. They want to slap things out and throw it out, slap things out, make money.
Yeah.
You have to keep a real sharp eye over what's being done. And see, Bill Watterson, he knew all about that, and he did. I mean, he was in a position that a lot of us would have loved to have been in.
Yeah, I would love to have been in.
But you know what? In a way, we might have lost our way. We might have just become very commercial. And see, when you become very commercial, you start becoming uh, a pawn of your advertisers. You become advocate of what these people want to see. You don't want to do your artwork with having animation in mind, but it can get to that. They'll want you to do things where the art is geared for
Yeah.
a T-shirt or something like that, and that takes away from your creativity.
Well, to that point, because like I said, of course, I don't know him. I didn't go through the time, but just watching the documentary, that was something that Charles Schultz really fought with because there were a lot of things he had to put his foot down in that he wanted that necessarily, they were trying to do. I think he said they had to use Bill Melendez, on his specials. He
Yeah,
just or he wasn't doing them. But there are probably people on the other side that would say, yeah, Peter's got really commercial, and Peter's, and I'll say even it took, kind of later on, and more so probably as he got older on in the strip, and it just started. They were getting off into too many things as far as just they were selling, all state this and they were just
Right.
mascots
Right.
for everything. And I get, and that brings me back to the point of what Bill was talking about. It kind of watered down the love for the strip itself,
Right.
and the essence of what it was itself.
It's the purity of the
Yeah, the
art.
purity of the art itself.
Yeah.
Now we talked about that. Now, obviously, it didn't. It started straying after, I think, you know,
Maybe,
Christmas
maybe
special and
well, I'm about to say maybe about the second movie that they had done. Remember, there was a boy named Charlie Brown. That was
I
full
like
length
that. I
movie.
loved The Boy Named Charlie Brown.
That was where they should have stopped. But they went on to have what, about 5 or 6 movies,
Oh
and
yeah,
I understand it. I understand it because it was a money making machine.
money
I
making
understand,
machine.
right? But see, in
But so
terms of
was
even
Calvin and
the
Hobbes, though. Calvin and Hobbes
right,
was a
it
money
would have
making machine, but he put his
right,
foot down and said, "No,
yeah,
we're not doing that."
yeah.
So what was it? And obviously, Charles would be the one to answer that. What was it? The difference between that? And it was funny because he was talking. Another part on the documentary was Berkeley Breathitt was on there too, talking about the back and forth that him and Bill was having about him merchandising his, stuff,
Right,
and
right.
things like that with Bloom County, you know. So what is that thing that, and I guess it's an individual decision on,
Yeah, basically, and luck, because I mean, there's a lot of strips or properties that have come out that could have actually gone for merchandising, but it could be the syndicate. They just didn't have the vision. Uh, um, I sometimes get on the syndicate because they continually like to do Popeye, and of course I'm pushing. Why don't you do some Curtis stuff? Curtis stuff. A lot of young people don't know Popeye anymore.
yeah,
But
unless they
that's
come
what.
out with a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Popeye went to public domain, and I think they were afraid that people were going to come out with all sorts of slam
Yeah.
cartoons and awful movies and all, and nobody's done a thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, that was a rub with, and is that something that you think about as well too? Because you see, and maybe that's because he didn't have a lot of merchandise, but all sorts of Calvin Hobbes stickers, like him
oh,
peeing on Ford, and all kinds of Calvin and
let,
Hobbes stuff started
let me tell
cropping
you,
up.
I, I've seen 2 examples of what do you call it? Bootleg,
Bootleg.
bootleg Curtis stuff that they were selling on the internet.
Wow.
You know, and to me, it was kind of it was kind of funny, really. I don't really care. You know, there was one T-shirt with Curtis drawn on almost anime, and I said, "Wow, this is interesting." One I saw Curtis on some sneakers. A
Yeah.
guy had done the Curtis face all over the sneakers. I said, "Wow, fascinating." Oh, and let me throw out a nod to a talented person named Jason Williams. He actually did a little animated segment of Curtis for me, and
See, that shows you that should be
yeah,
something you could should be
yeah,
able to take to them.
I
But
I loved him for it because he didn't have to do it. He just did it because he loved the strip and he thought it should have some sort
yeah,
of animation, and he did a nice little thing. I was
well,
very
and
happy to
again,
see it.
and I guess it is, but which always brings me back to my point of, you know, you controlling especially the IP that is you're passionate about, your baby, your thing, that type of thing. But how frustrating is it for you knowing that you want and knowing that, hey, if you get behind it, the success that it could have, but them not, just something like that, them not getting behind it and,
Well,
and seeing
it's
your
very
potential.
frustrating. It really is. It's very frustrating, and I think a lot of the other artists go through it also. Sometimes it's funny. It's like you work with people who are like non-creative,
Oh yeah,
and they don't they just don't seem to have the same vision as you do. And no matter how much you try to talk to them about it, it just it just
yeah.
seems to go over their
Go over
head.
their
And
head. Yeah,
but I always, as long as I'm doing this, I always have the hope of maybe one day somebody will say, "Wow, I want to do this." I had a close encounter with I can't tell you his name.
yeah.
A fellow had once approached me about 2 years ago, and he said he was an avid reader of the strip, and he did an animated series,
Yeah.
and they were considering doing Curtis, and I was like, wow, this is a dream come true. I can't believe this. This is fantastic. His last sentence was, "Could you make it like Family Guy?" And I just,
Well, that lets you know right there. Yeah, that tell you he's not trying. He's not trying to do that.
you know what? I had to grapple with the idea because I said, do I take this idea? Do I go along with him and get my foot in the door, but alienate my readers because the readers wouldn't like it if it was done
Yeah,
like Family Guy? I mean,
it's not
Curtis is
Family Guy.
different. It's not
Yeah,
Family
it's
Guy.
not even nowhere near like Family Guy. So why would you do it like?
I mean, there's no way I could gear it that
Yeah.
way. I couldn't make those kind of
And even if
misogyny.
they did, wouldn't they have to go through? And even if it was a story that fit along with Curtis, wouldn't they have to go through and get permission from King Features because they own the rights to Curtis or what?
Well, yeah, they would have to get the
Okay,
rights.
so evidently the green light for doing an animation has to come from King Features,
Right.
regardless of whether an outside company says they want to
I
do
don't
something.
I don't know how King Features would have really responded to it had they come directly to them. This guy came directly to me,
Yeah.
so I'm the one that said no to it. But I'm not sure how King Features might have reacted. I mean, they might have thought it was a moneymaker. But see, one good
Well,
thing about
yeah.
King Features and myself, we work on a 50-50 basis. I mean, things have to be okay by the both of us. They cannot just say, "Well, Ray, this is what we're going to do," and you have no say about it.
Okay.
No, and I in turn just can't turn around and say, well, this is the way it's going to be. It has to be a meeting of the mind.
Mines. Yeah. And again, that's where you decide whether or not, okay, do I want to control my own baby and put it out there and nurture it and grow it myself, or do I want to partner with and work with somebody else that's got a say in how this goes forward,
Exactly.
type of thing, regardless, of their, resources that obviously King Features has that you may not necessarily have. They have access to a lot of resources and distribution, but again, you don't have to go. You can get that online and do it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's work. Again, I want to preface that with it requires, if you want something great out there, it requires a great sacrifice for you to put it out there,
Right.
regardless. So I will just say that. But the power is within your hands to do that because
Oh
you
yeah.
you can do that if you so choose. But just know that if you decide to do it the other way, you're going to have to make sacrifices and choices on a different different way, and you may not be able to make the moves that you would like or think you would want to make without.
Now, this is the thing. Also, I have seen the animated treatment of some of the syndicated strips. There's Kathy. You could see these things on YouTube.
Yeah,
Uh, for better or for worse, I think there was BC and the
yeah.
Beetle Baby,
I think
and
some don't translate well. I
I
mean,
I don't think so either.
yeah, I saw.
They didn't really put the money behind it. And you know what I would like? If I had animation, I would like it to reflect the animation of, say, like the Iron Giant.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah,
if you're
yeah,
familiar with that one, I love the
yeah,
animation. It was fantastic.
yeah.
Backgrounds were perfect.
Yeah.
That would be the sort of look I would
Yeah.
have.
Wow.
But see,
Wow.
that would cost money. That would
Yeah.
cost big money. But
I
see,
answer
all I
for
need
sure.
is one.
Yeah.
All I need is one.
Yeah, for sure. But again,
I
like I
would
said,
plow the profits back into a second one.
yeah,
You know,
it's just,
it wouldn't be about keeping the money. It's about building something from it.
yeah. It's, I know it's got to be a frustrating thing. So, like I said, you could do this and want to do it, but like I said, you aren't able to do that for one reason or another. But again, like I said, it's if you got some gumption and some work
And see,
behind you,
I know also there's a fear in the industry of where it would go to because even with books, I heard a long time ago when I was pitching book ideas. Um, Unfortunately, I was told uh, what white person would want to buy this, and on the other hand, they said, "Well, blacks don't read." And I mean, they said this to me face to face. So of course, I like to prove them wrong because of my fan mail. I mean, I get mail from male, female, black, white, Spanish, Indian. I get it from everyone.
yeah,
But yet, it's what I say about the uncreatives. They just don't have the vision,
yeah,
and they think it would just be for black people, and black people might not turn out for it. And it's just like a movie or
yeah,
something.
like a movie.
Why
They're
is it,
one
why is it so hard to get financing for a black movie than it is,
because
a
they don't
white movie?
think it has mass appeal.
Exactly.
You
And
know, they
most
don't
times,
think it has mass appeal. And again, which, like I said, just brings me back to this point of: do you feel like that's the thing? Younger artists, younger creators are just not feeling like they even want to have to deal with explaining to you why you think this
see,
won't go over with a white audience, or why you feel like this will, and just put it out there.
a lot of the younger folk that I see, uh, they they're not aware of the struggle that was behind this whole thing. I mean, hell, during my time, if I could have just posted things, I would have done it. But they don't understand the crippling part of this industry. That's why I say this industry is not for the meek. Because as I was coming up, it was soul squashing. I mean, you could work for years and years and not get an inch. And this is what your life's blood is, and you're not getting anywhere. And see, the younger folk, uh, just putting stuff out there, they just don't know. They don't know the real struggle, and sometimes they don't have the same
Yeah,
appreciation for it. Um, it's just not there, and that's why a lot of times they'll come to me and they say, "Well, why isn't this working?" And I'll say, "Because you don't have the base yet. You have all these people that give you the likes and everything like that, but they're not coming. They're not standing by you."
yeah, they
Um,
hadn't built a true following base of some
exactly.
people that will support
I
them.
I got
Uh,
a person who kept posting things so much, and they would say, "Well, Ray, I'm only getting like 2 likes. What's wrong?" And he says, I've got good work and all that. And it's a little ego there,
uh,
right there saying that. But
yeah,
they've
it's
just
not about
hasn't
the work. It's not
yeah,
just about the
they
work.
haven't they haven't hit the chords yet.
Yeah,
But because you can post your stuff 2 times a day and stuff like that, you think you've made it, and that's
yeah,
not really the answer. You get a
no.
chance to be seen, but still the audience is very iffy because so many people are doing the same thing.
No, it comes down to: are you connecting with the audience? Do you have a connection? Are you building a relationship to where they will come out and support you in the things that you're
Exactly.
doing, type of thing? And that comes with from time and relationship, building
Right.
relationships.
And see,
So don't feel like there's a shortcut. I hate
right.
people. That's the thing I want to get across to people. It's a great industry. It's great being creative, but
Yeah.
if you're wanting to do something great, you can't shortcut it. You have
Yeah.
to take the time to build it. and
Right.
build it right, type of thing. Like I said, I'm 5 years into the show, and that's baby steps,
Yeah.
into doing something for a while and trying to get better at what you're doing, type of
Right.
thing, and to make it something great that goes beyond it. That takes time in building relationships with friends like you and other creatives and other things where
Right.
opportunities come up out of that, as well. Man,
There,
I
there's
promise
always
Ray.
room. Uh-oh.
Before I say this, I promised Ray that Ray had asked me how long the shows usually go, and I told him 45 minutes, hour. We are going into an hour and a half, people. And I told Ray, hey, rein me in if I'm just going and you got to
Oh
go
man,
and just.
I, I could get started with it too. I mean, I could talk all day about this because, like I say, I have so many stories. I mean,
Oh, man.
I should actually write a book.
Oh, you
But
should. You really should. And to people, I want to get across this is, Black history.
right,
This really
you know,
is. And like I told Ray, this is a treat. This is really an extra treat for me just because of my love for comic strips and what I wanted to do when I was younger. So this whole show has just been and finally getting you on. Like I told you, you are a part of the Color of Motion family now. And I know this isn't a thing that you do all the time, but we do love family coming back home to
yeah.
visit and share what they're doing.
Oh well, see now that I'm welcome, and right before the show, you promised to send me a T-shirt. I mean,
Oh, you're gonna get, like I said, trust me, you're gonna be. I'm not letting you go because when I close out the show, I'm gonna have you hang on for a second. Trust me, you're getting your swag and stuff, so that's a no brainer. Um, I wanna ask you what because I have to because it's kind of the thing now. You see it, AI, generative art, things like that. What is your kind of take on that? I mean, you're a veteran. You've been around
well,
the block a while.
there's been some of the artwork I've seen that's quite impressive visually, but I don't really like the fact that computers are doing it. There's people who have been studying the art for 30, 40 years and putting out masterpieces. Even like in animation, sometimes I pay strict attention to backgrounds and seeing just how beautiful they are, and then noticing that they're on pieces of paper this big,
Yeah,
and it's gorgeous.
yeah.
And it took so many hours of study and work to do that, and now you have it where a computer can knock it out in no time
Well,
at all, and
I
it takes away the humanity for
yeah.
me. Like I say, some of it is very pretty, some of it is very impressive, but I love the fact that there's a human that can actually do these things.
Yeah.
When I was starting out before the computer, think about this: you go to a client, you get the job, you might be doing a two-page spread on a magazine. You do the entire thing, you take it to the client, they tell you, I like this, but I want this out of it. You have to go back and do the whole thing over again and make it to their specification. And you know
Yeah.
what? That made you better
Better.
at your job. That made
Yeah.
you even better. So the hard work only made you a better artist. Shortcuts, they can give you that fulfillment for a moment, but you know what? The AI I see it for a moment, then it's gone.
Yeah.
With no lasting effect behind it because anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, I feel it. It has its place as far as generative AI art. It's still gotten. It hasn't kind of gotten to the point where it's you see a few pieces that are really good, but for the most part, you can kind of tell. Nah, this is AI. I can kind of feel it, and I don't think, like I said, they'll ever take the place of the human touch, the human experience of the design. And I will say this, which I think lent to why he was so passionate about the comic strip, Bill. His was beautifully illustrated. He was
It,
almost
it,
it was just a work of
that's
art
what I
in and
mean.
of itself.
It was art.
Art in and
That
of
was it.
itself.
That the
And
AI
AI is
stuff is too perfect.
yeah,
And,
AI is never you not every AI is not going to come close to something like that because
right, right,
you just saw the even the little nuanced mistakes that he might have went over.
right.
Like I said,
And
it was
see,
just funny. It was
not
just
even to on that point there, even the lettering is a bit of the artwork. Now I
artwork.
know
Yeah,
a lot of people work with different fonts now, and I mean that's all well and good. I can understand that part. I don't always like lettering myself, but I think the lettering brings an extra part to the overall look.
oh yeah, oh
And
yeah,
see, now I know people aren't familiar with strips like Pogo, but if you went back and studied some of the lettering there, it was fantastic.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
a circus bear spoke like in circus hieroglyphics.
yeah,
You know, it was a creative thing that isn't seen anymore because our mind isn't pushed to do it anymore.
yeah,
If you have a machine that can just do it for you, you won't even think about doing it that way.
yeah,
But I mean that's the I don't want to say the bad thing about computers, but
yeah,
some computers make things just a little too perfect.
yeah.
You can
And with
deal
that,
with having some imperfections because it's art. It's supposed to
well,
be
it's
art.
human. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
human thing. Imperfection is a human thing that we pick up on.
it shouldn't look manufactured.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be from you.
yeah.
So I mean,
And I
but
don't think, like I said, just
each
my
their own.
thought
You
is
know,
never going to take the human element out of art. I mean, as much as they may try, I don't think it's never going to take
no,
the place of the human art.
I, I'll show you a quick something. That's that's me working on a Sunday.
Ah, wow. Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Now, I mean,
Let me get a full shot of here.
it's a Sunday, so I mean, it's
Yeah,
just it's just the top tier
yeah.
that I've been working on now. The bottom down there is in blue pencil,
And so,
but you know,
ah, I'm having flashbacks of the blue pencil and then coming
yeah,
back over to
yeah,
ink it. And oh, trust me, that's why I say this is a treat for me because I used to just love, when I did my comic strip and
yeah.
just, was sending it off. I was like, I knew for sure I was going to get syndicated.
Well, you have to remember now. There's still opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said,
You,
there's still so many ways. Like I said, it's
all
again
you got to do is put in the time, man.
put in the time and the effort.
Yep.
And like I said, uh,
Now,
it's
this is
yours.
the bad thing about the industry. Of course, a lot of the guys they're getting older, and they're retiring the scripts, and some people are dying.
Yeah.
So in that way, it is opening up some opportunities. So I mean, you could still always put together a package and submit it. It's never too late.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Always good, always good to have another voice.
Oh man, where do you see Curtis? Like I said, my thing is like I and in the future, and then two, what are some of the you said you mentioned Iron Giant, the style you loved it and everything. We're starting to see a lot of different flavors of animation out there.
Yeah.
Kind of tell me a little bit of some of the things that you've seen that that's really cool how they did that, and I love the style of it and the story of it, and the things that you've seen.
Well, tell you the truth, it's not much. I'm, I mean, I look at some of these things and I don't try to grade them, but I could be looking at some of the stuff and it just doesn't hold my attention.
Okay, so what does well as far as comic strips, like
Oh,
today's comic strips, today's comic strips, which ones do you kind of find like, you know, yeah,
Oh, you mean like online strips?
no, just online in the paper, just comic strips that are out there, whether they're syndicated or whether they're independent comic strips that you've come across and seen that
Well,
you.
there's a few that I've seen that I really like. Now, you can't really ask me to say the names of them because it might make other people feel kind of slighted. Uh, but
Well, it's
there,
not
there
saying one's better than the other. It's just saying I like this. I mean, I could say
yeah,
I
see
like
that.
Richard Pryor, but that's not knocking all the other comedians that I enjoy listening to and this and that.
Oh, you know what? Let me give a little shout out to a kid that I used to mentor, a young fellow named D. Parson,
Okay.
who was doing the strip Rosebuds. And I mean, he got in touch with me when he was a teenager, and I mentored him for years and years. And I saw him go through several strips, and I think he's putting out a very good product right now. And there's another fellow by the name of George Gant who's doing a strip called Beware the Toddler,
Yeah.
and it's about a single father and his terrible 2 year old.
Yeah.
I think it's very good art. It keeps my attention. It's very well done.
Well, you mentioned earlier, uh, like Boondocks,
Yeah,
and obviously Boondocks fit. It fits a certain demographic, but obviously he was able to say the things that he may have had a fight, to get
yeah.
it across, but he was able to say it and it be out there and animated and in comic strips and this and that, and still hold true to the characters and how he created them and how militant and this and that and saying this and that.
Well, see that he came along during a good time for that. The voices were changing, and this is why I say I'm such a proponent of change, of changing your voice. Aaron came along, and it wasn't so much he was militant. I mean, he was militant to
Well, not
white.
him, but I guess one of the characters had a kind of a militant perspective, you
Yeah,
know.
but see,
Uh,
that was more towards the white audience.
yeah,
You remember, we as black folk, uh, we already knew characters like that.
yeah,
So, in real life, and also, I mean, it was feeding upon that. We had hip hop that was coming out really strong and all that. So tastes were changing, and he was able to capitalize off of that. And that's the thing that I talk about, taking chances with new audiences.
yeah,
Sometimes you need to not be militant, but I mean to just offer something different.
different.
And see, that's the whole thing about syndication that a lot of people don't get, which goes back to my whole thing about originality. If you're going to do something, don't do something that's been done before. And see, that's where the hard part comes in. You know, you a lot of things have been done to death, but of course you get that idea in your head and you want to do it and you think you're original, and it's really not. And that's where a lot of people trip up with. Nowadays, you just have to have such a different view of things. That's all. What I was saying about these two young guys is that they give a different look
Yeah.
to where strips are going. It's a much modern, it's a very slick, clean look, and
Well, as
I
you
like
say,
the way they're writing.
yeah. Well, as you say that the people that have been in place are getting older. The audiences, demographics getting older, but newer people are coming in that are newer audiences coming in. Um, that 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 space to be able to take that chance to say, okay, yeah, let's do a different kind of story. Let's do something different than what we normally do. Do you feel like that's kind of the thing? Most syndicates are trying to find what they do bring in they're trying to fit within this roster of the types
Well,
of comics that they've always had.
that's a good topic actually, because I had spoken to someone about this with like graphic novels right now. There almost seems to be, for lack of a better word, a sameness that's coming out. It's almost like a derivative of anime, and like almost all the characters are starting to look like that. The
Yeah,
great big
big
eyes that
eyes.
they
Yeah,
over their head. It's like they want to be unique, yet they don't want to take the chance. And see, uh, like I say, when I look at some of the novels and all, even some children's books, that cleverness, that whimsy that used to be in books that I was growing up with, seems to have faded. And it seems like they're all. I mean, there's so many books about fitting in at junior high school. I mean, I could lay an egg behind so many versions of the same thing.
yeah.
And, and I mean, how many people have been bullied? I mean, somebody asked me that thing because I have a couple of bullies in my strip. They said, "Oh well, Ray, you must have been bullied." No, no, I, I was not bullied. I threw down. You know, I wasn't one of those. So
Oh man.
it's just that thing of where people almost see a safe road, and they all seem to gather towards it. And see, that's one of the things that I was talking about with like a lot of the newer animated
Mm-hmm.
offerings, especially if they have on what is it, Cartoon Network or Adult Swim. That's
Don't
it.
swim. Yeah.
Uh,
No.
a lot of the animated things, they're really not that good. They're the same in many ways. It's nothing captivating about it. There's nothing really new. The backgrounds are poor, and the animation is just rudimentary.
Yeah.
We were doing better stuff than that, when I was back at the School of Visual Arts. But it's what passes for professionalism, and some of the things they they shouldn't they shouldn't have been greenlit.
Man,
I'll
trust me,
sit
there's a
back.
lot of stuff that shouldn't have been green.
I'll sit back with friends of mine and we say, "How did this make it?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah.
this even get through?"
Well, I mean, that's where those people in those places makes a big world of difference when some things get greenlit. Because, like I said, some things you scratch your head. Your guys actually put millions behind this.
Yeah, and
So,
see, the things, they don't last, they don't make an impact. I guess for the creators of it, they get to say, "Well, I had an animated program." Yeah, but it's kind of stunk. So in that
or they
same
feel
way,
like that's their best opportunity to kind of at least get a foothold in the industry. So where
yeah,
okay, yeah, my first one's probably
yeah.
gonna stink, type of
That's
thing.
why I say all I need is one.
Yeah.
If I can
Yeah.
get that one, I would vastly improve each time, because I see it as art and not just some quick money maker. I
Yeah.
don't want it to be out for just 6 episodes and then you say it goes on hiatus. I don't want that.
Well, and it's funny because, like we were saying, talking about, some of the comic strips, and you were saying you didn't see them as anime, or they don't or not anime, but animation, and some don't translate. And I was thinking the same thing because I saw, as much as I'm a Bloom County, I love Bloom County. That was another, Berkeley Breathitt and Bloom County. That was another strip I really enjoyed and made me laugh out loud. But they had a Christmas animation, and I was like, this, really
Yeah,
didn't
right,
fit in with the comic strip. So there's like some things that, you just feel like should be left in the form that it's almost like a 3D movie that they come back and make live action. Some things should just be left in the form that they are and be
right.
appreciated, you know, that way, as opposed to trying to squeeze every little juice of dollars that you can out of
These
it.
remakes of the classics. I mean, I haven't seen one I actually like. Tell you the truth. Um,
Remakes? I'm trying to think.
yeah,
Let me
I
think
mean
of a remake.
classics are classics.
Yeah,
Leave it at that. You know, oh my goodness,
I'm trying to think.
Pinocchio. Hmm,
I, yeah, you
really,
can never beat a classic, but I will say I've seen a couple of remakes that I've liked, and I thought the director took a interesting take. It may not have been, of course, we're all familiar with the classics, so that's why we're really hard on remakes. But I think it's a it's a it's a very nuanced thing to take a remake and remake it in a different way, but yet still the same way. And I thought, like, I love the classic of The Thing. Can't beat the
oh, yeah,
classic of The Thing, but I do like
that
John Carpenter's remake.
that was incredible. And
Um,
also the Blob.
yeah.
Second
So
time we did that, holy man.
so that's what I mean as far as, I think some things are good, but then some things just you should have just left it like it was. It
But
just kind of killed it.
let's take this for an example. You brought up the thing, right? Now we know the original.
Yeah,
Those who don't should look it up. Uh, it was basically about almost like a humanoid creature.
yeah,
The remake, it was unsettling. It was disturbing. It was
yeah.
a
It
real
was.
thing. So see, what they did was they not only made a remake, they rewrote the story,
You retold it.
and that's what remakes should do.
Yeah.
Don't harp. I mean, you might as well just make a whole different story and not really harp on so much what made the classic a classic, because the classic is a classic because they put their very best into it.
No.
So you don't try to build on someone's very best. Write something new. 101 Dalmatians didn't need a remake. It was
102.
perfect on its own. Right. Exactly. And they do some of these remakes uh, where they show
Oh man.
why the
Well,
character is the
and
way it
again,
is. You don't need that.
so then does it come down to the industry? Is it's the dollars? How much
It's the
dollars
money.
and how much revenue can we make from this franchise and thing?
Exactly.
And I guess that's
Exactly.
where it can be soul crushing for the creative that's in that kind of realm where
Oh,
you got a lot of people around you that you love it for the art and what you're creative, but they're just thinking, like you said, they're non-creatives, they're business people thinking about the dollars of what they can do.
right.
So it's a very tough position to be in, especially when you're at those millions and billions of dollar level, on the line for
Yeah.
it. So,
And mind you, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that really complains about this. I think they just
oh,
don't complain openly,
yeah.
but I'm pretty sure most of the creators feel they have work that could translate into something else, but they're just not given the chance.
Yeah. And again, that's where, like I said, um, you know, control. And it's funny because I had this conversation kind of in a not as deep as I'm having it with you, but I had this conversation with Kevin Graveau, uh, of Underworld. He's really big in the comic. I don't know if you've heard of him or whatnot, but if you've seen Underworld, he's a comic book writer, but he's
Yeah,
also an actor and he's been a director and this and that, and he's more famously known for the Underworld series, the
yeah,
Vampire Lycan series, film franchise that I didn't know he co-wrote. I thought he was just an actor when I first, met him, but that's when I
hmm
learned was getting to know him and learned that he was a writer. He was into comics and he wrote graphic novels and things like that. But my point to say that was his thing was he learned early that if he wanted to tell and control his own characters and stories and things like that, he had to be real mindful of controlling the IPs that he wanted to control and
yeah,
not get morphed off into because like I said, while he I'm not putting words into Kevin's mouth. If you watch this, please don't take it that way. But I'm pretty sure, like I said, you know, there were probably differences while he was in Underworld 2. I don't know if he was in 3. Was he in 3? I don't think he was in 3. I don't think he was in Underworld, the prequel, I think it is. But that's what he said he learned from that experience of just the control. You know, if you want to control your own IP, you just have to take the steps into doing it and make the decision to do it. Otherwise, you're going to have to accept that, you know, you may be making compromises on things that you don't want to. But at any rate, man, Ray, I'm glad. Like I said, I have not. This is just an excuse. I'm glad because trust me, I didn't even look at my questions that I had down because I was just going, you know, rapid fire. So there were so many things that I didn't. But I don't want to let you leave without asking you this, as far as your journey, because it has been such a long journey and interesting journey. And again, like I said, this place you have in history, Black history, you know, the comics industry history, this place. What would you say would be the best advice that you would give somebody? And that advice, what's been the best advice that somebody's given you?
Wow. I think that the very best advice that was given to me by the big guys, and it's a message that's been around for a long time. Uh, just to really be true to yourself. You know, don't water yourself down. Don't think about your audience that you're going for, because the audience will come to you
Yeah.
if you prove yourself to be a viable person. Uh, just a creator, not. Don't look for the money behind it. Look for the truth in the story that you want to build, the characters that you want to flesh out. Uh, Make them people that you want to live with for a long time, and just always do the very best you can, and that's no BS there, because you're only as good as your last effort. Um, People ask me about why do I want to put out fresh work every day when I could just do reprints, and I said because I don't want to end the day like that. I always want to do my very best because I'm only as good as the last bit. Um, Graphic novel telling, you could have a graphic novel that um, was really high on the chart, and then 3 years later you have nothing, and people don't remember you anymore. So do your best, do as much as you can, and be an inspiration to others. Never, don't look down on anyone else. Don't think that your work is the most important in the world, because there's always somebody you can help. Uh, there's always ways you can be helped. You're not the pinnacle of success. Always know that there's more that you can do, and more that you can, as long as you're living and breathing. This is an ongoing career.
Oh
So
man,
that's one thing you really have to remember.
awesome, man. And you,
Be humble. Be
yeah,
humble all the time, because it doesn't have to be you. It could be any number of the millions of people out there. It could be any one of them. So
that
be
is true.
thankful for where you are, and be thankful for your circumstance, because it's what makes you who you are, and who you are comes out in your work.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you guys know how I do it. I drop bombs when my guests drop bombs of nuggets, so I have to do that. That was a hell of a nugget. Like I said, be humble. Like I said, and if for everybody just jumping on, man, we've been having an amazing conversation. As I bring this train into the station here, like I said, I haven't. I didn't get through half my questions, even if 2/3 of my questions I didn't even look at them. I'm sorry if I neglected you guys, but we're gonna throw some posts up here for sure because I know they're a bit at the bit. I respectfully disagree with you on what. Oh, hold on, let me take this down here. I
Uh
respectfully
oh.
disagree with you on what you said about Adult Swim. There's one popular series on there called Smiling Friends that's thriving on its creative animation styles and sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
Honestly,
Oh
Adult
yeah.
Swim is a
Mi-
different, it speaks to a
Mind you,
different audience.
yeah, mind you, they all have their own sense of humor.
Yeah,
They all do, but it's not exactly, and maybe it's done on purpose, but it's not exactly a universal humor. I mean, at one time, Beavis and Butthead was, a number one contender.
yeah.
Uh, Not so much now. I mean, they tried to bring it back, and it didn't do so well. But it all goes for what you're looking for. Uh,
And the
some
time, because there was a time when Beavis and Butthead was a big thing. I think it just
exactly.
hit at
I mean,
that time.
just like South Park,
Yeah, just like South
doing
Park.
cutouts.
Yeah,
It it had its time, and it had its different audience. So I mean, Smiling Friends, while it has its audience, I'm not sure it captivates everyone.
oh
It
well,
does,
now,
and which one does? I mean,
yeah,
other than superhero movies, none of the animation really captures everyone.
and not even in the superhero movies don't count because not everybody likes superhero movies. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just the thing.
yeah,
Everything has its audience, and that's what I quickly learned doing the show. My YouTube. You'll you'll find everything that you like or that somebody likes. There's an audience for it. The same
right.
people like the same thing. I had no idea that there's a convention here in Houston on quilt making, and quilt
Yeah,
making is a big
yeah,
industry. And there's people that just love quilt making. So there's an audience. Everything has its audience. Your task is finding your audience, the people that
exactly,
resonate with you, and the
exactly.
people that resonate with your work. That's the task, and you only get that by putting out your content, and those people will naturally find you, your audience. Just like this show, it's not for everybody. And I know everybody, as much as I would love it to be, everybody's not gonna love it, and everybody's not gonna agree with the things that are said.
We think the same on that sort of thing. The audience has to find you. And then when they do, they might be loyal. They might not. They may like you for your message. They
Yeah,
might like you for your style. They might like you for your writing. It could be any number of
any
things.
number of things why people choose to follow you or like your content,
Exactly.
type of thing. So don't let that, like I said, dissuade you. What else here? Man, Mr. Gio, I don't know whether you're a guy, going by your thing. The art in Pogo is sublime. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you learn a lot if you look at. I think if you look at the older style comic strips, you'll learn a lot. Like Prince Valiant, in that it was just
You,
the
you
artwork and
know what?
everything.
One thing you ought to be is you should be a student of what it is you want to do. If you want to be an animator, you should know about all animation before you. If you want to do a comic strip, you should know all about the things that came out in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and all. Make a foundation for yourself before you think you can come along and just, do anything. Everything needs a foundation. We all need something to grow from.
Yeah,
If you want to do panel strips, you look back, you see, the trends, and you take that in and you use it, and you just use it to your advantage. Pogo, yes, it was fantastic. Got to remember, Walt Kelly was a Disney animator,
yeah,
so of course his artwork was fantastic.
yeah,
Now you should study someone like Al Cap, who did Lil Abner. That hillbillies may not be your cup of tea,
yeah,
but look at the artwork and look and read the stories, and you'll find out these things were masterpieces.
yeah,
A lot of things aren't your cup of tea, but they work they work for a reason.
yeah. No, that's for sure. You definitely gotta, you know, look back on the past. It may be a bit painful or, or things like that looking back, but you can learn something from it. Like I said, I I was never, while I liked Disney, I was more Warner Brothers, like
Oh yeah,
style, like
rowdy stuff.
yeah, I was
And,
more Warner Brothers slapstick style humor I
and
liked.
mind you, even UPA. I mean, if people aren't familiar with UPA,
Yeah,
they should look it up
look it up.
because it was stylized. It was fantastic. It
Yeah.
wasn't Warner Brothers. It wasn't rowdy. It wasn't Disney. It wasn't sweet. But it was fantastic to look at, and things like that need to be known about.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, like I said, my passion for this show is to bring you that. And again, Ray, as I bring this training to the station, thank you so much for coming on again. This was treat beyond. I just can't express it. This is a
Oh,
big treat for me. The only thing that could have beat it was maybe sitting down and interviewing Charles Schultz.
oh no,
Oh man.
he,
Let's see.
he's right here. He's always
This
right here.
Mr. Warrior, this has been great. I appreciate that. I hope everybody trust me, if you're coming in on the tail end, please make sure you check out the replay, because this was just a gem of an episode and a treat for me, for sure. So I hope everybody else enjoyed this as much as I have enjoyed bringing it. Miss Gladys, I would love to see a cartoon show. I would too, And it's funny though, those ones that are really good, that are really kind of, like you say, cutting edge and really bring just different. They don't last long. Like I love the PJs. The PJs, you remember the PJs car animation? That was funny and it was really good. But it just didn't last long. It just,
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing. You hate that because it's edgy and it really brings a sensibility and a trueness to it that you just don't see every day.
Let me say thanks to Gladys. Thank you so much for the comment.
I would love to see one too, Gladys. Really would. I would love to see a lot of stuff of Curtis. Specials, merch. I get what you're saying as far as you want to kind of keep it under control as far as that, I guess, I don't know, maybe you do want to get out like Charles Schultz stratosphere type
Well,
of
n-
thing,
not
but
that far. Not that far. What
I don't
I
know,
would like
something.
I would like to have a couple of animated things, but
Okay.
as
Well,
for all the other stuff, yeah, not that far.
well, we are putting that in the atmosphere, an animation special for Curtis, and we are putting that out there for sure. And I know that that's going to manifest in the future. You at Geo, I know I subscribed. And thank you to all the ones that subscribe. Trust me, again, I will be contacting you about shipping information and stuff. So to all those that subscribe during the show, it's the first, and I thank you for that and thank you for supporting the show. It is a treat. Ray, like I said, this has been a blast. If you could hang out for just a second while I close out the show, I would appreciate it. But again, thank you for making this a special episode. You just don't know
Thank
how
you.
special it was.
I have to thank you for having me, and thanks for the people who have tuned in. And see you in the comics.
No, this was a great episode for sure. Make sure that you connect with Ray. You can find him on Facebook. Connect with him on Instagram. Check out his stuff. Check out Comics Kingdom. There you'll find Curtis and a lot of other comic strips. If you are a comic nut like I am, Comics Kingdom is the place for you. All this stuff will be on the show notes. So like I said, if you're just coming in late, make sure you go to the show notes and get the information and connect with Ray. And, he may message you back and this and that, but you never know, for
I
sure.
will.
And definitely join the Facebook group community for the show and, engage. You'll be a part of that as well, and you'll be able to engage with them there as well. Again, Ray, thank you. Everybody, please help me thank again Ray Billingsley, the phenomenal Ray Billingsley, for coming on the show. Hang on for just a second, Ray, while I close out this puppy here.
All right.
Man, oh man, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this episode. This was, man, yeah. It was like going to Disneyland. It's like going to Disneyland. But this was a fun episode. And like I said, I'm just so ecstatic that Ray is a part of the family now, Color Emotion family now. And yeah, I'll be working to get him back on the show for sure and keeping up to date, especially when that Curtis special comes out. We're going to be having him back on the show. Miss Maggie, thank you for supporting the show. I thank everybody that supported the show. I thank everybody that subscribed. Your gift is on the way, so be on the lookout for that for sure. Man, like I said, this was a great Black History moment. I hope you picked up on that for all my Black and African American friends and people that are just supportive of Black history. I hope you picked up on that this is a Black History moment because he is in Black history. So thank you again. This was a great episode. Can't say it. And like I said, next week is going to be no exception. Man, season 5 is on fire. I have to say. I may be partial, but season 5 has been fire so far. And next week is going to be no exception for sure. Welcoming Miss Lola Alma Akins, director, animator, and viz development artist extraordinaire onto the show. So definitely don't want you to miss out on that. Yes, don't want you to miss out on that. Well, this has been a blast of an episode. I hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend. I hope you have an even better week and a productive week. And I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.